a song from back in our day.
I forgot that song, man.
Hey, it's a good song. Relevant then, still relevant today. I'm Mel Campos.
Mike
Amos. This is kind of a dream come true for us. We've been talking about a show for many years. And today is the start of what we hope will be something that is ongoing and of interest to you, our audience. Mike, how you doing?
I'm a little tired. I'm sitting here. I'm kind of like thinking about Rutgers. I guess I wore this sweatshirt so I could represent, but the show and the dream and my daughter who went to Rutgers all ties together because Deja, affectionately known as Day Day, Day Day said when I talked about the party, she said, "Oh yeah, you guys been talking about that for a long time."
We have, and here it is.
Yeah,
here it is. And a little background. The premise of this show is a 50-year friendship that in 2024, Mike and I will celebrate 50 years of being friends. And that it's significant because I read somewhere not that long ago that the average friendship lasts between 18 and 36 months.
I'm glad you said that because I was thinking about some friends I don't talk to anymore on the way over here, and I was glad you said that because I was feeling kind of bad till you said that.
No, and I think both of us, when we talk to people and tell them that we've been friends for 50 years, we get that look like, what? 50 years? Oh, damn, man, nobody talks to each other for 50 years ago. But we do.
And shout out to Chuck Finney, the Iceman, because he went to high school with us and junior high school with Melvin, and we're still in
and elementary school.
And and you got that.
Third your age, Chuck. Hope you're tuning in.
Iceman. I don't know. I've been back. I've been staying with my Uncle Freddie, who just turned 90. And it's really trippy. It's also trippy after totaling my vehicle and coming from an artist residency, too. But it's like a bunch of stuff all crammed together. And so I DJed in Spain, right? I DJed in Spain and Madrid and California. And after that, I realized that it was a dream come true because I used to go to record stores every week. Like they got documentaries about what me and all my boys used to do every week. But you hear about guys going to Japan. I remember to Japan, to Europe, and I was like, wow, I had a dream to play internationally. And then I let it go. And this past summer, I played in Spain, California, Medellin, Colombia, and I realized that it was a dream come true. And then I said to myself, you can make dreams come true. And I was not thinking about you referring to this show as a dream come true.
But it is. And to give a little context, we met in English class in 1974 at Adlai Stevenson High School, which doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately.
Okay, so what's it called now?
It's a campus. It's got a bunch of names. It's not Stevenson anymore. That's what I can tell you.
Monroe. They did the same thing to Monroe High School.
Yeah, they've done it to a lot of high schools, and high schools as we knew them pretty much don't exist anymore. But
why do you think that is?
Yeah, I think that that big doesn't work for our kids. 5,000 students, which is what Stevenson had when we were there. It's hard to learn. It's hard to focus.
Is it working now, though, with the small schools?
I'm not sure, but I think people got to try something. It's somebody's job. At every job, it's somebody's job to come up with ideas with the better pill. I'm not sure that the better pill always works.
I think it's all just sleight of hand, man.
It probably is. But they had to try something, Mike. And this is what they're trying. Is it working? I don't know. I can tell you, I work with kids, with high school students every day. And if I had to give you an off-the-cuff answer, no, it's not working.
All right. Well, so, all right, now we're going to talk about Zeitlin. Because I interrupted you.
Yeah, we may jump around a little bit. In 50 years, there's a lot of squares to jump on. So Mike and I both transferred into Adlai Stevenson High School on the same day. I think it was in October of 1974.
I don't remember, so don't ask me.
He from Christopher Columbus High School in the Bronx, and me from Brooklyn Technical High School in Brooklyn.
I didn't know you went to Brooklyn Tech first.
Yeah, man, that's
holy shit.
Yes.
Brooklyn Tech or Bronx. Okay,
Brooklyn Tech.
You know, Dale went to Bronx Science.
I didn't want to go to Bronx Science.
Okay. I didn't know you went to. Okay.
Yeah, so that's where I transferred from, and we ended up in the same English class with a teacher, Mr. Zeitlin. Bit of a strange bird. We didn't know at the time, and we're sitting on opposite ends of the room, and Zeitlin was bizarre, to say the least.
Now we know he was high. Okay, he was high.
It's what I hear.
He was
and
high.
Based on what I saw, I believe it.
Maybe I shouldn't have said that and mentioned his name, but ain't the statute of limitations up or something?
Yeah, I'm sure he's retired.
Right.
I'm sure he's retired. And I hope he's doing well. I mean,
he
actually wasn't a bad teacher. He was just a little different. Yeah. Class is going on, and I'm new, and I don't want to speak for Mike. I don't know what was going through his mind, but I'm new. I'm wondering if I'm going to fit into this place, wondering if I made the right decision. And Zeitlin's doing his thing. And then he makes a statement. And I don't remember what that statement is.
Neither do I.
And from my perspective, it was a stupid statement. From my perspective.
See, I just think saying that it's a stupid statement is judgmental.
From my perspective, it was a stupid statement. My perspective may have been the smartest statement in the world. I don't know. But anyway.
No. If you look at something as stupid, then you land on one side or the other of the point. And when you do that, you're automatically further away from reaching a consensus. So all I'm saying is that I try not to think in judgmental terms to say that what he said was stupid. And at one time, maybe I would have said that in high school. But now I don't think it does you any good to say that. But we both agree, though, that we had the same line.
So after he made the alleged statement, Mike and I both said exactly the same thing at exactly the same time. Don't remember what it was.
Right, and we didn't know each other either.
At all, but we did. And the class went on, and at the end of the class, Mike and I both walked towards the center of the room. We met in the center of the room, and we greeted each other however 14-year-olds greeted each other in 1974. Because I don't remember what that was either. But we greeted each other. I'm pretty sure however young men gave each other a pound, we did. And then, as they say, the rest is history.
Well, but I said that was the beginning of what we like to call, or what I like to call, the same but different.
Yes.
That was the beginning of the same but different, because I even think, like, it's funny because I didn't know that we were going to do video. So we show up and like we're the same but different, because he's got a golf shirt on and a jacket, and I got like a tube and a sweatshirt.
Don't forget the pins, which are very
the Boys and Girls Club pin,
and the diversity pin.
It's on top of the Boys and Girls Club.
Yes.
Pin. So don't point to the other side.
I'm looking at a camera and everything's backwards.
Oh yeah, yes. That makes sense. Yeah. It does make sense. Yeah, but I think it's important. I think the same but different is real important.
Yeah. Talk about that a little bit.
Same but different. So I think that, okay, so we're different because there's always risk to what you do. You take risk. You know, the closing song is "Cheers to the Fall," and that's about taking risk. So I just take them and deal with the consequences. I just dive in. Melvin looks at the water. He takes the temperature of the water. He does the litmus testing to see how much acid is in the water. And then he decides whether or not he's going to jump in. And based on the results of the test, maybe he jumps in, maybe he doesn't. But whether he does or does not, whatever happens after that, he's going to face the consequences. I dive in the pool. You know, I'm just go. Whatever happens after that, I'm going to face the consequences. The same, but different.
You know, and it's interesting because Mike is right on target when he talks about how we deal with risk, but in how we deal with the outcomes is where it's the same. And part of what I think is important is that if you do something, whether you dove in the pool without testing the water, or whether you tested the water and then made a decision to dive in, that whatever the result, the good, bad, or ugly, that you better be willing to deal with the consequences. Because there are consequences.
Better.
Because the consequences are there. And what I found, Mike, with many people, and probably one of the reasons we've been friends for 50 years, is that most people are quick to make an excuse. What happened was, stop it. You did it. These are the consequences. Now you got to deal with them. But most people don't want to deal with them. Mike has done some crazy stuff over the years. Stuff that I'm like, what are you thinking about? But
I can tell you at the time what I was thinking about. And if you bring up the incident, I'll tell you what I was thinking about too. And so I think
I don't have a specific one right now.
Yeah, but
we can get to some.
I think it's worth mentioning that, like, when I do stuff, it's not necessarily off the wall, or, you know, I'm not necessarily, although I do sometimes do things to see what happens, but I guess there's a purpose in mind, and because of how I look at things differently, hence stupid, judgmental language. People often stop and look at me and they're like, well, what's he talking about? And so I just want to mention that one of the reasons that I think we're still friends is that we speak the same language, we speak the same language, and he understands me. Like, not a lot of people understand me. Not a lot of people will know what I'm talking about. And he does. So if he understands me, I'm gonna keep him around.
We speak the same language, but we often use different words, but end up in the same place. I mean, one of the things I always talk about is that there's more than one way to get to the top of the mountain. And there are those who will swear that their way is the only way. And nothing could be further from the truth. If this is the top of the mountain, there are a variety of roads that we could take to get there. And I think we have to become more tolerant and respectful of people's paths. And for me, when I see Mike Amos and see all of the things that he's done, but his willingness to say, okay, I did it, I'm willing to deal with what's what, makes him the kind of person that I want to be around.
Give thanks. Give thanks. You know, and I think it's really important to acknowledge that a lot of my life I thought that I was somebody that people didn't want to be around. So and Melvin has always been willing to be around me and been around me and let me know that even after I messed up. Or I'm not gonna say messed up, even after I maybe stepped out of line or crossed a line that he wouldn't cross. And he was forced to take action, or there was action as a result of that. He still had my back. So, but enough of the freaking explanations. You told me you saw Kim in the picture, right? Kim and Sherry.
Yes.
No, what'd you say? You went somewhere? This is what's this like? This is like what? 50, so how many years ago is this? First of all,
this was. I started working at the Bank of New York in 1981. Kim was in my training class. She had been hired by the bank. I had been hired by the bank. We were in the same class.
Mel was on it.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I guess you could say that.
He was on it.
Beautiful young woman. You know, yeah, the relationship progressed, and I was going to visit my family in California, and somewhere along the line, and it wasn't too far into the relationship, I introduced Mike to Kim and her sister Sherry. So I shuffle off to California to see my family, and it was, a great trip. I come back, and after I dropped my bags off at home, I went to see Kim. Of course. Of course. And I walk into Kim's apartment, and Mike's laying on the floor. And
well, I didn't touch Kim.
No, I didn't know. I walk in, and there's Mike laying on the floor, on Kim's floor. And
Kim lived with her sister Sherry, though, too. They lived together.
Yes, they did. However,
so that's the point. You like on Kim's floor. It's on their floor. It's not on Kim's floor.
It was Kim's floor to me.
Right. Okay, right. That's the point. It was Kim's floor to you, but it wasn't only Kim's floor.
No, you are correct. So, I looked, and, the producer tells us we got to keep it clean, but, my initial reaction was WTF? What's going on here? And after about an awkward minute, because we got to the heart of the matter very quickly, Mike said, I'm here to see you, Sherry. And I said, oh, okay. And we went on from there.
Well, you introduced me to her. So, we all got sister stories out there. Y'all got sister stories out there.
No, we all got stories. They don't always have happy endings.
Yeah.
To quote our buddy John Holmberg this morning, always looking for a happy ending.
I was just talking with somebody oh wow. My father, my father is Wally Amos, the founder of the famous Amos Chocolate Chip Cookie Company, and he's not doing well health wise. He's deteriorating. He's he's moving on, and some people, we were just talking about his life in perspective, and my sister said, I don't think it has a happy ending. And that's interesting, because it's been a roller coaster ride. However, I think there is some happy in the ending, I guess. Even though it's not a happy ending, there's happy in the ending.
Yeah, and depending on how you look at it, none of us are headed towards a happy ending. However, the happy ending is the quality of the life you lived. And, Wally Amos, who has had a fascinating life, is on the way down. But Wally's story is one with peaks and valleys, and with some tremendous happiness and some tremendous sadness.
It's a fascinating story.
And the story,
I lived some of it.
The story, which we may get into in a future episode, if they'll have us back. But it's a fascinating story, a lot for all of us to learn from. I was fortunate to not have been right there, but close enough to learn many lessons, and to hear him speak, and to
tell me about some of the lessons that you learned. It's interesting because when you talk about somebody's father, right? Like I mean, at this point in my life, I do know that I've learned lessons from my father, and I can really understand, and I know what I've learned from him. But I don't know if I've ever heard you, other than maybe a driving story, I don't know if I've ever heard you say what you learned.
Well, I mean, from Wally Amos, he's, a little bit of his story. He was the first Black agent for the William Morris Agency. And it wasn't easy for him. I mean, I wish he were here to tell you those stories. But what I gathered from it was that although he was that agent, there were many within the organization who did not want him to succeed. And his solace was baking cookies. It's a hobby. It was a hobby. And somehow that became a way that he dealt with the stress that he faced every day at work.
But not at William Morris, though.
Okay.
After William Morris, when he went out on his own.
So he's baking these cookies. It was a hobby. It was a pastime. And it eventually became a business. And the lesson there is that not to turn anything away. And if you do something, do it. Keep doing it. And others may see the value in it. He became a motivational speaker, told stories. And the lesson there was, and this is important, I think, is that we can see and help others with their challenges and their struggles, but we don't always recognize our own. Because Wally had his struggles, but when you heard him talk, it was, this guy got it all together. And to a certain extent, he did. And to a certain extent, he definitely did not.
Well, and so from being on the inside looking out, and on the younger end of the spectrum as far as life and experience go, it was really, really frustrating looking at just that. It was really frustrating dealing with just the fact that so many people got so much from him, and I'm not really sure what he got, but I know that there were times where I got really not what I got was not good, or what the family got, or because see, what you have to understand that in order for you to pull off something like Famous Amos, you have to a certain degree, have tunnel vision and don't stop. And when you have that, you neglect your family, and so it's a very complicated relationship. But I'll say that it's one that I wouldn't trade in for the world. Just like us, I wouldn't trade this roller coaster ride in for the world.
Yeah. It's been a fascinating ride. When the word roller coaster is quite true. The ups, the downs, the plateaus, and ending up here 50 years later, really believing that we're on another hill. There may have been a point where we thought that a little slope was as high as we were going to go. This is a hill. This is
the hill on top of the mountain.
Yes,
and we had to get there. We had to get there.
We're on it, and we're going to get there. And we don't know what is still ahead of us. And I think that neither one of us is afraid of what is out there for us.
And I'll say in closing, the song that you're going to hear is Cheers to the Fall. And the song is about taking risk. And the song is about taking risk and not being able to not take risk. And it's really it's about our relationship and about the same but different. The same but different. We both go about things different ways, but we figured out a way to take risk and continue to take risk and also continue to climb.
Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back next week, I hope.
Just remember, breakfast with Mike and Mel, 50 years. Give thanks.
Thank you.
All right, 10 seconds, and then run the second show.
I think less explanation and more just diving in.
Yep, second show.
We don't, when we go to breakfast, we don't explain what we're doing. We don't explain what we're doing. Mm-hmm. We just do it.
I think in the first show, a little context.
You had to do that. The first
show. We had to do something.
So come back with the song, right? You know the song you guys are gonna use?
We haven't picked it yet.
No. I think we'll use the same two songs.
Oh, really? The same song?
The same two songs.
So talk about a lyric then. Talk about whatever. Who's bringing us back for the second show?
You started the first one, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Breakfast. 50 years of breakfast. Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
And come back with the song, the lyric, and then go into what you're going to do.
Right.
And don't forget to close out how people contact you at the end, too. Just so you don't get in the habit of that. But we're rolling live, so let's go with this because it's not a time limit here. So we're going to finish it. So when I go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you'll start. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Cheers to the Fall. Same song we ended our first show with. We started with the second show. I'm a DJ. I'm one of those DJs. Yes, I will play a song twice. So you will hear a song more than once. Welcome to Breakfast, 50 years with Mike and Mel.
They brought us back. How's everybody doing? Happy to be here. Happy to go on. And 50 years. And we haven't been having breakfast for 50 years. But within those 50 years, there's been a lot of breakfasts and a lot of conversations and a lot of people that have passed through breakfast, with Mike and Mel being the constant.
Breakfast started in Troy, New York, technically in Troy. Although you were living in Albany, right? I was living in Troy. Was it Troy, the spot, or was it?
I think it was in the South. No, in the Arbor Hill neighborhood of Albany.
Okay. Dive.
Greasy Spoon.
Dive.
Burned down.
But like when you ask for an omelet, I swear I think they put 4 eggs in an omelet, like, and charge you $2. You know, like the woman at breakfast used to call me. It's funny because as much coffee as I drink now, back when breakfast started. Now, how long ago was that when you said? How long ago would you say breakfast started?
Moved to Albany in 1990, and the first breakfast was shortly after we all ended up in Albany, which may have been 1991.
Okay.
30 plus years.
I did not drink coffee then.
Me either.
We went to breakfast and I would get hot tea. And the waitress knew me and she would be like, oh no, here comes the teetotaler. Do you remember that? Here comes the teetotaler. And we would go, and like I said, you got healthy portions, you know. You had to sit on the cushions, right, or else they probably would have slipped out, you know, into the middle of the floor. But so what? Mel Campos, Yusuf Burgess, John Holmberg, Mike Amos, Kevin Brown made some appearances.
Guest appearances.
Who else? Am I missing anybody from that? Those are the early days.
That was the core group. But many passed through.
Yeah, and what was 6 o'clock in the morning?
That was about when we started gathering.
Yeah. And
you know, it's funny because neither one of us drank coffee at the time. We drink coffee every day now. That's another story.
Sometimes I drink 2 pots.
And the expectation at the Greasy Spoon hole in the wall diner was that everybody drank coffee. So we got from the waitress who took good care of us, but she looked at him. I'm not sure about those guys.
She was like, what's wrong with that?
They don't drink coffee.
But she did. She took care of us. She was pleasant. But she did give us the side eye a lot.
Yes.
She gave us the side eye all the time.
Yeah, and getting the side eye and continuing to move forward is an acquired skill. Because sometimes when we get the side eye, we're like, wait a minute, what am I doing wrong? What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. No, we're doing what we do and moving forward. And so glad to continue the breakfast tradition. We had breakfast last week at 6:30 in the morning in New Rochelle. And during breakfast,
I got there first too. That might have been first. Me getting to breakfast first.
John Holberg called while we were at breakfast. He didn't know we were at breakfast. He happened to call.
Yeah. John Holmberg is naturally, without attempting to be, one of the funniest people in the world. He's just himself, and he puts it out there. And there was a time where he didn't know he was funny or why he was funny. Now he's like, yeah, I guess that's what I am. Yeah, breakfast. And so, but it morphed to, I remember having breakfast with my daughter who went to Rutgers, and some of her classmates in Jersey.
Yes.
More than once.
Route 78, I believe.
Yeah,
Clinton like, Diner.
Yeah.
Halfway between New York and Pennsylvania.
Because we were all living all over the place, and we decided to get together. Deja came with a classmate. And at Deja's baby shower, my daughter just had a baby a little over a year ago. And one of her classmates was there. And somebody brought up breakfast. And her buddy who went to school with her he stopped and he was like, yo, they have legendary breakfast. and then went back to what he was doing. And then it went around the world. Not around the world, but we have
Atlanta,
right? ATL, and
lots
ATL,
of breakfast in Atlanta.
ATL, yeah. And then we came back to New York,
Philadelphia.
Yeah, Philly with Blind Boy Grunt.
Yes.
Yeah. And then we came back to New York. I came back to New York. I left New York 10 years ago. Wow. I was going to say, I left New York 10 years ago. So before that, it was maybe 15, 20 years ago where we came back to New York and started doing breakfast in the New York area.
Yeah. And breakfast in Minnesota, in northern Minnesota.
I think one of the keys to life is travel. And when I say travel, yes. I don't mean like take a vacation. I mean whatever you feel about what's happening in this country now, politically and what's going on, we're talking at each other. We don't listen to each other. And a half to 3/4 of the people don't really know what's going on. And you can attribute that to some of that of being in a vacuum. And travel has flipped that for me. And also, you got to stay someplace at least 3 weeks to a month. That's the antithesis of where you come from or what you're familiar with. And it will expand your point of view.
The art of compromise has been lost. And when you travel and when you immerse yourself in different environments, you have to be able to compromise, because one thing about the world and this country is that a few miles make a difference in how people view the world. And if you go in all knowing and this is how we do it and we're right and you're wrong, you're not going to grow, you're not going to expand, and people aren't going to open themselves up to you. But if you go pay attention, look, see what's happening, see what the culture is, and figure out how you fit in or don't fit in, and go from there. But I encourage everyone to travel as much and as often as possible.
And what you said, what Mel said, it boils down to you becoming a universal translator. Because something real simple. Jersey Shore, Maryland Ocean, New York Beach. 3 different words, all the same thing. And when you travel,
2 miles from each other.
And when you travel, I mean, the first time I went to Minnesota, I was baffled because I was having conversations with people and I didn't know what they was talking about or what they were saying. And I was like, are we both speaking English? Because in Minnesota, the conversation goes in a circle. Okay, where we come from here, we're taught to speak direct. We talk right to you. We get to the point. In Minnesota, they meander around the block. And I remember just being exacerbated in Minnesota, and you be up and you end a conversation and maybe I'm a close talker, what's the Seinfeld? I'm a close talker. But I still don't know what's going on. I get exacerbated and I'm just like, and I try and check out of the conversation for a little bit. And when I checked out of it or attempted to check out, I was like, oh, wait a minute. This is where the conversation is. This is where it understands. And I feel after living across the country in rural areas, off grid adjacent, on the East Coast and on the coast and in the more densely populated areas, everything is fast, it's close, it's like you're in somebody's face, and that's the common occurrence. And when you move away where there's more space, you just have more time, and there's more space in between you. There's more space in between your words. There's more space in between your thoughts. But what happens is if you're from one to the other, if you're not familiar, you don't know what's going on.
You got to pay attention. And, there's a lot of people who are in our circle who we don't see or talk to as often. And, Mike is a guy from the Bronx. We're both from the Bronx, who is living in northern Minnesota near Lake Superior. And people ask about Mike all the time. People that I see and talk to, they always ask about Mike. They know we're connected. They know we're close. And when I tell them, I tell them Mike's up in northern Minnesota, what he's doing, all that. And people are like, what the hell is he doing? What are you talking about? And I tell them, one of the things I always tell them is that in all the time that I've known Mike, I've never seen him more at peace than from when he moved to northern Minnesota. There's something to be said for that. Now, my sons and I went to visit Mike in northern Minnesota.
When I was living, also, you need to be clear, I've lived different places in northern Minnesota. The place that they came to was off-grid. By off-grid, I mean no running water and no electricity. Okay? You had to either melt snow or haul water, and you used candles for light, and you used firewood, and you cooked with wood. That's where they came. Now I'm in a slightly different situation, which I call off-grid adjacent.
Well, off-grid was off-grid, and I was up there, happy to be there. Got to spend time with my boy, was with my sons, who I don't get to spend as much time as I would like with. And this was the time that we were all together. And, we parked the car. We parked the car. I was like, okay, so we gonna walk to where we're going. Between a third and a quarter of a mile up a mountain. Like, Mike, where are we going?
It wasn't really a mountain. It's a bit of a grade. But
it's a mountain to me. I'm from the Bronx. It's a mountain. And we got up there, and we settled in, and I knew it was gonna be rustic. But as you get older, you gotta go to the bathroom at night. No lights, no water, no bathroom. So I had to go out in the woods.
We did use headlamps, but I
didn't have a headlamp wasn't offered. It was not an option. And I'm out there worried about bear. That's I thought, wow, what do I do if a bear shows up?
No. I mean, it pays to play it safe. Dogs. If you notice, Rory, I had 2 dogs then. There may be 3 dogs now. I don't know. Hazel's holding on, which is labeled mother. Dogs and bears don't get along. And it's also interesting, according to Lakota legend, there was a time on the earth in this hemisphere, whatever you believe it was, where animals and humans communicated, but pretty much the humans messed that up. Something happened in the humans messed that up.
I'm sure.
But there was also, and I don't know these legends. There are people that know these stories and these legends, and something was going on between bears and dogs. And the bears were like, we ain't gonna deal with the humans. And the dogs were like, we will. And y'all just keep your distance. Say that to the bears. Something, it's loose. It's loose. But
I don't know all these legends and all this. I wasn't worried about the dogs. I saw the dogs. The dogs were there.
The dogs are there to keep the bears away.
Yeah, so I wasn't worried about the dogs. But I was worried about bears. And then the next morning, we got up, everything's good. I said, Mike, I love you, man. And I'll come back and visit you up here. But I'm staying in a hotel next time because it was a little too rustic for me. And you know, when I talk to people and tell them about where he was and what he was doing and how he was doing, many of them would not even consider going and visiting Mike in northern Minnesota. And it's beautiful. It is absolutely gorgeous. The air is clean. You look out and it's like, oh my God. But the rustic environment was a little much for me.
Well, and you know what? I think that part of the role of human beings, or the idea, is to make things easier and convenient, and that's really messing stuff up. You know, really. I mean, I was with an actor the other day, and he was talking about they're using artificial intelligence to generate voice patterns, and they're using artificial intelligence to generate scripts, and as well as, you know, using AI and high tech stuff where they don't use actors, and it's just it's sad because at this age of my life, I read somewhere once that somewhere between 45 and 50, everything you do could be considered exercise. And at 64, Lord know that's the truth.
Yeah, you know, AI, the need for humans, the necessity for interaction is being reduced on a daily basis, and that's, I believe that's bad for our society.
Well, I mean,
it's bad for our people.
It's if you get to a point where you make things so easy, there's nothing for us to do, and we cease to be. It's like we need to be. One of the things, I mean, I was severely depressed when I went to Minnesota. I had prescriptions for antidepressants. I didn't want to take them. And one of the things that I realized was that when you break a day down to how am I going to eat? What do I need to do to stay warm? Where is my shelter? When you break a day down to that, a lot of the other noise and nonsense goes away. I'm always amazed when I come back to the city. Sometimes it's really interesting. I had conversations with a couple of people this trip that I hadn't had talked to in a while. And there's so much drama. Oh my God. You know, it's killing me.
Drama, a lot of unnecessary drama.
Right, that's the point.
And you know, there are people who look for it, who thrive on it, and if there's no drama in their lives, they go out and create some. And it's you know, when you get to be 64, you want to minimize drama. You want a simpler life. You know, about 5 years ago, I moved to New Rochelle with my wife and daughter. And the first night that we moved there, and it's nowhere near northern Minnesota, but New Rochelle, New York, you know, 5-7 miles from the Bronx, which is my home. And the first night at 3 o'clock in the morning, I woke up and it was quiet, real quiet. And I started looking around, wondering what was wrong. It was new for me. It was unusual for me. It was a little scary for me. And but living in New Rochelle is good for my wife and daughter.
Grace Jones had a song. The song Grace Jones had, doesn't anybody work in this town? There's always so many people in the streets, referring to New York. And the other day, I was out in New York and I was like, how does anybody get any sleep? It don't get quiet.
I slept better with the noise.
Because it's what we become what you become. I think that I don't think our bodies were made to deal with the amount of stimuli that we have from lights to traffic to electricity to people being compact. It's taking its toll on us, and people, it's a lot to handle.
It's a lot to handle. We don't always handle it well. And I think it's important to figure out what works for you and what environment you can thrive in. Whatever thriving for you means, because
Right,
thriving
right.
is different for everybody.
Right. Yeah.
What it means to you, what choices are you going to make, and what do you need for you to be comfortable? And it's different for everybody.
It's definitely different. Well, it's different. Well, see, okay, here's the thing though, okay? When you go to Minnesota, when you go off grid, it becomes the same. Or it gets closer to the same. Not it's like things just shrink because Rory described it to me. Rory Scholes, the brother who took me in Minnesota, who, is responsible for my the current career of me being a ski tech. He calls me America's best black ski tech. I don't claim that, by the way. I probably shouldn't have even said it. But he said that when you get in the situations out and by yourself, everything is right here. And you deal with stuff. You learn how to, and that is so true. And that, I think, would, you don't have time to be stressed about stuff if you want to make sure you got enough wood. I'm going to get the wood. I don't have time.
I want to flick a switch.
Yeah, but see, and that's part of what we've got, what we're accustomed to. I got to go to a pump every day and get water.
Faucet.
Yeah, and so we these things are easy and they're convenient, and then we wind up being lumps. Or we've gone so far in developing the human mind that we've gotten so smart that we don't need us.
And that's dangerous. That's real dangerous. Because people need people. And one of the things that I notice is that the art of communication is being lost. Our young people don't know how to communicate with each other. And that saddens me.
I don't think it's only the young people, but I think that one, I think maybe we should talk about next week on our next show. We should talk about communication. We should, I think, because that's also key for the 50 years is communication, and if we go out with the song we came in on last week.
Yeah, we're switching it up. We're gonna go out. And
we're going out.
I am calling you.
Right.
And
communication.
One of the lines in the song is a desert road from Vegas to nowhere. And if you remember the movie, Mike, it's about 7-8 people who come together in this town in the middle of nowhere who are all running from something and looking for something.
Baghdad Cafe.
And they found it and they created their own community. And it's left to interpretation as to how successful that community was, because it certainly had its challenges. And we are, I think we're all always looking for something. And when we're fortunate, we find it. And looking forward to next week and to continuing the conversation.
We can make our dreams come true. Carry on smartly. Breakfast. 50 years with Mike and Mel.
Next week.
Okay.
What do you think?
I didn't listen to it.
What do you think, Steve?
Hold on.
You know me though, Mel.